Welcome to the how to set up your Arcdps for WvW video. In this video, I'll go over the Arcdps and boon table setup. I'll leave the download links to the files in the description below. And something to note when you are installing this is if you're running DX9, you want to drop both Arcdps and the boon table file in the bin64 file and folder. And if you're running DX11, you can rename the file to d3d11.dll and drop it in the main Guild Wars 2 folder, and you can leave the boon table file in the bin64 and it will work just fine. Okay, now going over how to set it up. Once you download it and you launch the game, you installed it, you want to hit Alt-Shift-T to bring up the options window. And over here, by default, you will probably only have area stats checked. So by default, area stats checked, it will give you a window for DPS out. So that's damage out to players. But by default, it will actually include damage to NPCs and gadgets. Gadgets can be things like siege. So you want to get an accurate reading of damage done to enemy players. So you want to check both of this so you won't get those readings. So the next thing that you want to try to do is you can actually change the size of the windows over here. So by default it would be this long. You can see that mine is slightly shorter. This is at 350 and this is at 400. So up to your own preference and how much real estate you have on your screen. And if let's say you want to have multiple windows, you kind of want to make this smaller so that there's less clutter on the screen. Okay, now going over to what kind of stats that you want to monitor. This is my setup. I have DPS out, I have cleanses, strips, downs out, kills out, and DPS in. So DPS in is the damage taken by your allies and yourself. You have downs out, which is number of downs generated. You have kills out, which is the number of kills confirmed. You have strips, which would include boon strips from things like chrono or boon corrupts from necros. And then you have cleanses. Okay, so how do you access this is you right click it and you uh, go down to advanced stats, and then this is where you check it. So you want to check the windows from this top portion because you want to get the stats with every fresh fight. So every time everyone gets out of combat, RDPS will stop logging and then it will restart logging again when the next player gets in combat again. Okay, so this is where you check things for the parameters. So you might want to check tag distance as well. I've since stopped checking for this because I just visually look for people and look for inconsistencies. But if you want to see, let's say you are a new commander and this, or let's say your squad has issues of staying on tag, you can kind of have this checked and you'll be able to see who has been really far from tag, and you can kind of mention it to them, tell them to work on it, things like that. Otherwise, if you're just a regular player, you can see how you fare in terms of stacking close to the attack, because we all know stacking close to the attack is very important for damage mitigation. Okay. So now, if let's say you want to do a small window like this, sometimes you will find that, you know, some player names are too long. It might actually cover up the numbers. So you can go into display. So now I've set it to character limit to the max name length to 8. If let's say I have it to 15, you can see that it covers up the numbers, so you can't actually see any of the numbers. And sometimes if let's say you want to keep it more compact and you want to stack them together, you can go into display, go to max display, you can hit it to 5. So it will show the top 5 player stats, but you can still scroll down to see other player stats. And that would pretty much cover the RDPS portion. Now I'll go over the boon table option. So by default, you wouldn't have the boon table. You have to check the boon table. You can position it however you want similarly. And by default, what you will see is a full list of player names when you have a full squad. So that will cover your entire screen. So what I'll do is right click and uncheck players, so you won't see individual players, because realistically you do not need to see individual players. What you need to look for is the individual party boon uptime. So over here, what I have is quickness, stability, and super speed. But realistically, you only need to look at stability and super speed. If you're a scrapper, you want to pay attention to super speed. If you are a firebrand, you want to pay attention to the stability. So a good number to hit for super speed is about 55 to 65% super speed uptime. And for a firebrand, you kind of want to hit about 2 to 3 stability. But this might change if, let's say, you have a herald in your party and they are dropping roads frequently, so this might inflate your numbers to like maybe 4 or 5. So that's one thing to take note of. And how do you set this is you right click and then you go down to column setup. For boons, this is where you get your stability, and for super speed you go down to others and click on super speed, and over here you can kind of play around and see how you want to set it up. You can change the width of the column. For this, it's more of a slide bar, not so much typing the number in like Arcdps. And some other things that you can just try around. You can actually change the appearance of Arcdps as well. You can change the font size. With some advanced settings, you can change the colors, and you can change things like color of the names as well. So yeah, there's many things that you can try to play around. And the last thing I'll go over is logging. So what you want to do is you want to set up a folder and you want to put in the directory of the folder over here. And every time the fight ends, you will be file will be saved. And what you can do is you can upload the file to dps.report and it will do a very detailed breakdown of the fight for you. Some things that you want to try to have here is you want to have minimum player enemy participants, or like maximum squad participants, minimum squad participants, set it to 550. You can just copy what I have here and like end after seconds inactive. That's like when nothing's happening. And what you can do as well is use NPC name in safe path. So sometimes you have uh, multiple, or you have many different contents that you're doing. You might be doing raids, strikes, fractals, and you might be using the same character, so it's kind of hard to keep track of what that particular file, the save file is. So this will help you to break up the save file into each particular boss fight, or in our case World War War. It will create an extra World War folder and all the World War folders will be saved in there. Or what you can do is use player name in save path, and this will further break up uh, the file to the particular character that you are using. So that might be something that you might be interested in. With that, I end my video, and if you have any questions, drop it in the comment section. Thank you.